تحية مجددة لكم مشاهدينا الكرام في الاستديو الخاص لمؤتمر سمو الشيخة فاطمة بنت مبارك للتدريب والتعليم. مشاهدينا الكرام، هذا المؤتمر الذي سوف يكون على الهواء مباشرة على مدار اليومين، اليوم هو اليوم الأول، وغدا إن شاء الله سوف يكون اليوم الثاني والختامي لهذا المؤتمر. وفي اليوم الأخير من هذا الموسم مشاهدينا الكرام من مهرجان سمو الشيخ منصور بن زايد آل نهيان العالمي للخيول العربية الأصيلة، سوف يكون اليوم الختامي للنسخة السادسة في العاصمة أبو ظبي، في مضمار أبو ظبي الفروسية. طبعا كما تحدثنا في بداية هذا الاستديو الخاص، طبعا كانت انطلاقة المؤتمر الصحفي الخاص لإطلاق 6 قارات كل العالم متواجدة مشاهدينا الكرام في اليوم الختامي. مشاهدينا الكرام، الجلسة الأولى والمحور الأول كان عن تدريب الفرسان عالميا وتفادي الإصابات من 10:30 وحتى 12. بعد لحظات من الآن مشاهدينا الكرام سوف تنطلق الجلسة الثانية في هذا اليوم، إحدى الجلسات الثلاثة. طبعا اليوم الجلسة الثانية بعنوان الوصول بالفرسان لأعلى المستويات بعد لحظات من الآن. أما الجلسة الثالثة والأخيرة سوف تكون صناعة العلاقات العامة والإعلام والتدريب. يسعدني مشاهدينا الكرام أن نرحب بضيفي الكريم الأستاذ فيليب برانن من شركة التسويق المعروفة في بريطانيا. Philip, it's nice to have you on Abu Dhabi Sport Channel again.
It's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to be in Abu Dhabi and part of the Sheikh Mansour Festival.
Yeah. So we were talking about this conference at the beginning of our broadcast on air. You were like in the first session. Can you just tell me what was the most important thing you noticed in that session, and how important is this kind of session, especially for the jockeys, to develop their standards as much as they can?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that it was a fascinating opening to the conference this morning, with representatives of different racing schools from different countries all around the world, all on the stage together and all answering the same questions. And some very interesting facts came out about the differences, the different approach to becoming a jockey. We're talking about education and training and young people, and the different approach to becoming a jockey from young people all around the world. We saw that there was a big difference in age and gender at entry level at racing schools all over the world, and it's fascinating just to bring everyone together, because we were talking earlier about the standards generally in the world, and one of the things that the Sheikh Mansour Festival has provided this year is to bring the jockey schools together, so they have an opportunity to share their ideas and their experiences.
Exactly. You were saying that different schools there were in the first session. What did you notice by listening to the different schools? What was the most important thing you noticed? What is the difference between the schools?
It's fascinating because they have different approaches to the training allocation and how the jockeys are trained, but also the entry level, and particularly with gender. We heard from the German representative that 90% of their apprentices are female.
Imagine, yeah.
In the UK, the balance is the other way. It's more boys wanting to become jockeys, and so just to find those differences and the difference in approach, the amount of time that they allocate to jockeyship and horsemanship, hearing them speak about that and them being able to share their ideas.
Exactly.
It's very important.
Mr. Philip, like you're talking isn't it a great thing that having different schools in the festival only for the people here in the Arab world, just to make use as much as they can from the different schools, like it's for free education for the people here?
It is, and all that can do is raise the standard globally, to be able to exchange information, exchange ideas, and to learn from each other. That will drive up the standard of jockey coaching and training all around the world.
Exactly. Like for when we are all over the world regarding the races of His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed, Arabian horses, also the endurance, we noticed a lot of changes from the beginning still now. In when the races we meet in London or in other countries, we noticed that also they are improving year by year. You notice that, right?
Yes, and particularly so in the UK, because Arabian racing in the UK is a smaller sport than thoroughbred racing, but it is continuing to grow in stature, and the support of Sheikh Mansour Festival and the races that Lara Sawaya brings to the UK has helped enormously to raise the profile of Arabian racing. And when we raise the profile of Arabian racing, we raise its professionalism and the professionalism of those people that are involved in it. And Arabian racing in the UK has a very important role in bringing jockeys through. Many of our professional jockeys, professional thoroughbred jockeys, have started their careers riding Arabians.
Exactly.
And of course, many of the professional jockeys in the UK ride both Arabians and thoroughbred. So it is, particularly in the UK, the Sheikh Mansour Festival is helping to raise the standards and awareness.
You will be the moderator of the third session today. It's talking about PR and media. And in the early studio, me and Pat Buckley, we were talking about that how important is the media for this kinds of sports like horse racing. Pat was talking like we need more people to be there. Not only the people who are close to the jockey or close to the owner of the horse or close to the breeder. So we have a lot of work to do to make a lot of people to come.
We do have a lot of work to do, and the marketing and protecting the reputation of horse racing worldwide. Horse racing has a great reputation around the world as being a sport of high integrity, and that must be protected at all costs. And the PR and media session this afternoon, I hope, will be very interesting because, as far as I'm aware, it's the first time that this has been addressed on the agenda at one of these conferences. And the jockeys, we're talking a lot about jockeys, and we're talking about education, we're talking about young people. The jockeys, and you will know yourself, having interviewed many of them all around the world, they have a role to play in promoting the sport. And if we can give them some media training or some media awareness at least as part of their jockey coaching. And we learnt that this morning from the jockey schools. Many of them do already give a limited amount of media training, but if we can make sure that by the time they become successful, by the time Abu Dhabi Sports TV is coming to interview them at places around the world, that they are aware, they are articulate, and they are comfortable with being around the media.
Exactly. So what you're trying to say, Mr. Philip, is not that they have to be trained how to talk to the media. This race was hard. I listened to my trainer and I did this kind of tactic. No, it's how you promote yourself. You promote this kind of sports, how to spread it as much as you can.
Yes, because that will encourage other people to come and watch the sports and also to follow those jockeys. So it'll help them in their careers, but it also will help the sport as a whole, and that's important. And jockeys, because they are the focus of attention, they're the ones that people come to see, and people do follow particular horses, they follow particular trainers, but more so they follow jockeys. They remember names of jockeys, and they follow jockeys. And so if the jockeys are articulate and can express themselves well, they can play a vital role in promoting the sport and making it more popular. And of course, Pat Buckley would know that himself, because he was a former jockey and he was thrust into the media spotlight in 1963 when he won the most famous steeplechase in the world, when he won the Grand National. So Pat brings a unique mixture of experience to the panel this afternoon, having been in the media spotlight and now recognising what the jockeys can do to help us promote the sport.
Now we are talking like now we're in 2014. If you talk about media, you talk also about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all these. How important are these also to help to spread as much as you can these kinds of sports?
They're very important, but it's vital that they are used correctly. And we have seen around the world, and particularly in other sports as well, in football and in cricket, where sportsmen have got into trouble from tweeting the wrong thing, making the wrong comments. And so that is also a very important part of the young people's education, to make sure that, yes, they do use it. We don't want to frighten anybody away from using the social media opportunities, but to use it responsibly and correctly.
Because it's the official thing of yours. It's your name. It's like an agency. Whatever you say, if Masoud says something wrong about himself, so it's fixed on you. You know, you can't say, no, it's not mine. So you have to be aware how to use it.
Absolutely, but I think it goes deeper than that. It goes beyond that, because if you are riding for an owner, then you are representing that owner. You are representing that trainer. And really in the wider field, they are all representing the sport. We are all representing the sport, and therefore it's very important that we don't do anything that could call the integrity of the sport into question in any way, or that could reflect badly on the sport. And in the PR business, that is really what we're about protecting the reputation of the sport and the people that are in the sport.
There should be like somebody controlling it as a teamwork. You mean you have to represent it in a proper way, not just go and tweet and that's it, for example.
Yes, and I think, as we said earlier, if we can incorporate that into jockeys' training, so that, and it doesn't have to be a major part of the training, but just educating them to use it responsibly, and as you say, to be aware that once you press that send button, then it's out there.
It's less than a second, and then you can't pull it. Exactly. So now, what are the most also important things as a PR director manager you think, which we have to work on it to be like more spreaded, more famous, more known as this kind of the most important thing you're going to talk about it today in this session, the first session?
Well, what we're going to talk about is about how Arabian racing could, about what Arabian racing needs to do in order to present itself better to the media. And that is not really a question for me to answer, but it's a question for me to ask.
Exactly.
This afternoon. And we have representatives. You mentioned Pat Buckley, Derek Thompson, who is our host at these events around the world. He is sitting on the panel as well because he has a solid journalistic background. We have sports presenters from other sports on the panel, and we also have the the head of news.
I'll come back to you, but we have our reporters ready with an interview. Okay. I'll come back to you, Philip. مشاهدينا الكرام، ننتقل إلى زميلنا حمد الإبراهيم. حمد، تفضل لك الكلمة.
شكرا مسعود. إذن كما تحدثت مع ضيوفك الكرام هناك في الاستوديو، انتهى قبل تقريبا ساعة وأكثر شوية القسم الأول من هذا المؤتمر الذي تحدث في قسمه الأول عن كل ما يهم طبعا الفرسان أو الفارسات، الذي تحدث أيضا عن المشاركة النسائية لدى الفارسات، تحدث أيضا عن الابتعاد عن الإصابات. حاليا نحن على أعتاب القسم الثاني من هذا المؤتمر، والذي سيتحدث عن أشياء أخرى مهمة جدا في تأهيل الفارسين وتأهيل الكوادر في هذا الشق أيضا بالنسبة للفارسين والفارسات. خلال الثواني القادمة سنتحول إلى هذه القاعة. مسعود، العودة إليك في هذه اللحظة، تفضل.
شكرا حمد الإبراهيم. نعم، سوف نعود إليك لإجراء المزيد من اللقاءات. So they were talking like the session is going to start in a few minutes. We'll chit chat with you a bit, Philip. So I would like to continue your view of point you were saying about the most important things. Well, we have to do it.
About how racing, and particularly Arabian racing, can present itself to the media. And I would like to know from the panelists this afternoon what it is that they're looking for, what sort of stories are they looking for, and what kind of information flow are they looking for. They also pick up news feeds from Twitter and from Instagram and from Facebook and social media. How important is it that we use those avenues in order to feed them with the information they need? We have a responsibility as an industry to provide good stories. We can't expect the journalists to write. We can't expect the broadcasters to show things if they're not interesting. We have to, racing provides a huge amount of good stories, and we have to identify those and present those to the media in the right way. And this afternoon, I'll be looking for some guidance from the panelists in how we can best present racing to them to allow us to have the most coverage.
Exactly, nice. Now, if we are talking about the festival, like since it started 6 years ago, now we are in the 6th season, and like in 2-3 days we will be going to, okay. Mr. Philip, like in a few minutes they're going to start the second session. I would like to talk to you more and more about the festival. I was going to ask you about how the festival improved. Like in 1 minute, can you tell me how the festival improved in all the flat race, endurance, conferences? What do you think till now after 6 years?
Because today is fascinating that today we have 800 people here from 46 different countries,
how nice
and
is that?
the awareness of Arabian racing, of endurance racing, among the people who come here has grown enormously. And if Sheikh Mansour Festival has achieved anything, it is to grow the awareness of all those sports and to bring people together.
Exactly. Philip Brannan, thank you very much. مشاهدينا الكرام، ننتقل إلى ديريك تومسون اللي طبعا في اليوم الأول من مؤتمر الشيخة فاطمة بنت مبارك للتدريب والتعليم. المحور الثاني مشاهدينا الكرام، الجلسة الثانية تحت عنوان الوصول بالفرسان لأعلى المستويات. To you, Tomo.
Could you give me a great big round of applause? I'm just going to ask him to stand up. From the United States of America, Hall of Fame living legend, Chris McCarron.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Susanna. Thank you.
It's an honor to have him today, and it's an honor to have all at the table. And just to introduce them, the lady who's going to look after this, just reading through some of the things that she does. She's president of the European Association of Racing Schools. She's general secretary for Gentry, that's the Amateur Riders Association. She's a board member of the German Jockey Club. And if I went on to all the other things that she's a member of, we'd be taking the next 2 hours. Give a big welcome. She's going to look after things this afternoon. Her name from Germany, Susanna Sanderson. Over to you, Susanna.
Thank you very much, and I welcome you to the second session, and we are speaking or discussing today the possibilities of top jockeys. We have really experts in at our session, and I'm very, very happy. We have was introduced already, and I would like to ask now, beginning with Matthew Hyland, to introduce yourself, and then we can go on and you introduce yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. First of all, thanks very much for having us. I'm an apprentice jockey coach, or one of two apprentice jockey coaches at Racing Victoria, and I have a history in the racing game for 30 years, so both as a jockey and a trainer. So my role is to mentor the apprentices from the beginning of their apprenticeship through to the end of a 4-year program, and obviously develop relationships with them, and where they can contact me at any time and hopefully develop their career.
Chris McCarron, thank you very much. Chris McCarron, so I think you are used to media, you are used to everything after all your successes. 7,141 winners, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Please introduce.
Thank you, Susanna. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you so much for inviting me again. I was not able to attend last year, and Susanna persevered and said that through Remy Belloc, my executive director, that I must come this year, and I'm so thrilled that I accepted your invitation. The hospitality has been second to none, and I want to thank all the sponsors and Laura, too, for the wonderful hospitality and everything that we have to look forward to the rest of the week. I was asking JD here how many races she rode in her career, and she rode over 700 races, and she's ridden over 100 winners, which is an incredible percentage, and I want to congratulate her on that fantastic career. But I think it's a little, yes, let's hear it, yes. I see the stark contrast, though, and I also see the benefit of having conferences like this, because there is such a stark contrast. JD had mentioned to me that, well, when I asked her how many races she rode over 700, and I rode 2,199 in my first year. And I rode for over 28 years and 34,000 times, throwing a leg over a horse's back, and had thrill after thrill, and I'm just so incredibly blessed. But I know how hard it is to achieve the kind of success that JD has, and other individuals in the room as well. And congratulations to each and every one of our panelists, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know JD for a long time. So she was amateur, is professional now, and even really a couple of years ago when she started riding races, I saw she is something special. She had a very good style, she had a very good feeling for horses, and it continued really, and I'm happy you are very successful now. Please introduce.
Thank you. Does it work? Working? Yes. I'm Jade Petrosevich from the Netherlands, and I also want to thank Lara and everybody for being here. And I was a bit shocked that I was involved with the panel today. But on the other side, I have a lot to tell also of my way to become a jockey, actually. Like, I started as an apprentice in Holland. And in Holland, the racing is not very big, so it was not really future. And I came back then as an amateur. And I had high levels as an amateur, and I'm really proud of that, and hard work also. So I want to do something new. I don't want to get stuck, and so I changed this year my license to a professional, and it goes very well. I have no complaining, and yeah, also with Arabian racing. Very good.
Next to JD, we have Dr. Koji Sakamoto, Deputy General Manager of the Japan Racing Association. Please.
Thank you very much for inviting me. At this time, it's the first visit to Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and I have a big impression from here. And at the first time, I'd like to introduce JRA Racing School outline, right? At the first, I have a 32 years history. JRA established Japan Racing School, and JRA get lots of things, lots of idea for racing school from foreign country, and make a good, better program as it now. And we have two courses. One is a course for jockey, and the other is a stable worker. And one jockey course, we have, jockey course is a 3 years session, all time. 1.5 years, they study basic equestrian riding skill, and also track riding skill. And then the next 1 year, they go to racing stable. We have two big training centers, Miho and Ritto, western and the eastern area, to get racehorse riding experience, hands-on experience for 1 year. And another half a year, they're coming back to our school and brush up racing riding skill and to prepare jockey license examination. And also we prepare for them to the mimic race, or same type of track, yeah, you know. And then get a test, and then able to be a jockey. And the other groom course, we have a 6-month session, and they study fundamental equestrian riding skill, and also track riding. And both of jockey course and groom course has a physical training, also lecture. Afternoon, they get everyday lecture. For example, horseback riding, theory of the horseback riding, or basic knowledge of other citizens, you know. Then, and the total number of students at this time, we have 3 grade kids, jockey level. First grade, we have 7 and 3. Second level, 5, and third level, we have 6 students we have. And groom course, we have 2 half a year and half a year, and we have combined 3 months combined each other. Then we have 4 courses every total year. Then at this time we have nearly 30 students we have. And the facility, we have near 1,400 meters truck, like a racing truck, and also in the hall. And there's all students, all pupils stay in dormitory for their whole time. Then we have such kind of facility, and also, all right.
Many big jockeys came from your school, so
yes.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Richard, perhaps you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Susanna. First and foremost, I'd like to reiterate everything that everybody said on this panel and thank Lara, thank everybody for being here. My name is Richard Perham. I'm representing the British Racing School in Newmarket. My job at the British Racing School is, well, I'm a jockey coach. But that could be slightly misleading because the majority of the work that I do is actually to assess jockeys. You've heard from one of my colleagues, Dawn Goodfellow, from the Northern Racing College up in Doncaster, that a jockey's license course is 5 days. Now, there's no way on earth that I'm going to be able to teach somebody to ride in races in 5 days. But what we can do is we can plant the seeds, we can give them the basic skills that they need to go out and perform safely in public. That's what my job is to assess if somebody's capable and assess if somebody's able to go and do that. And listening to lots of the panels here, and my good friend at the end, Matty there, it's clear that he's in a very enviable position because Racing Victoria looks like they've got a really good program, a really good blueprint for training young jockeys. And the majority of people sat along here are involved with something called an academy. And Rami Balak is blooming about it earlier on, about what they can do. I think one of the things from my point of view in the UK we're missing is an academy. So we have some of the best racing in the world. We have Ryan Moore, arguably one of the best, if not the best riders currently riding within the world. So we've got all of this, but what I'm crying out for is an academy system like some of my good colleagues along here. But my core of work is assessing jockeys, and then what we're going to go on and talk about later on, hopefully, is how to help them progress when they get to that base level and start flying up.
Right, thank you very much. Thanks, Lorena.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the invite. It's great to be here.
Just moved in, just arrived.
Yeah. We had visa problems, but we're here. I started my career in 1970 as a jockey, rode for 22 years. Then I retired and became a full-time chairman of the South African Jockey Association. And over those years, I've communicated and worked with the Jockey Academy, which is a very famous academy, one of the first in the world. It was set up in the mid-60s. And it, without blowing our trumpet too much, it certainly has been successful. We had Michael Roberts, champion jockey in 1992 in Europe. And to be a champion in Europe from another country is like nearly being a world champion, actually. That's how I look at European racing. We've had Bart Elisha, who stamped his mark in Hong Kong. We had Basil Marcus, who was 7-time champion in Hong Kong. And Dougie White, who's been running now 13 years champion in Hong Kong. But I think Joe Moreira is going to take that now. The youthful Joe Moreira, who's an exceptional jockey, is about to take that title. When it comes to the academy, I'm a bit of a critic when it comes to the time spent in the system. In the old days, we left home at a very young age of 14 Today, you only go into the system around about 15, 16 years old. My personal belief is jockeys should go there as young men and not boys and know what they want to do and hopefully go into a system where they're going to have a passion to get involved in this career, which is a very trying career because you're relying on so many factors to be successful, let alone your own ability. I continue to run the Jockey Association in South Africa, and I will continue to give my advice to the Jockey Academy of where we can improve, and any other body in the world that would like to get information from us, we have an open door. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ahmed Al-Zubuzi. So he's apprentice jockey at UAE. And you won a couple of races, and recently you won in France, in Tarbes, won a race of Her Highness Sheikha Fatima Bint Mubarak Apprentice World Championship. And you are entitled to ride in the final. Please could you introduce yourself?
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أنا أحمد سالم السبوسي، فارس أبرنتس إماراتي.
كم سباق شاركت؟
بديت كأبرنتس جوكي من سنتين تقريبا. طلعت اللايسن في دونكاستر عند ريتشارد. بس شوي بديت في 2012. طلعت I get my license in Doncaster. I start riding in England. I had few courses in Ireland and America, and I raced in Dubai and America and France and England. I had few winners out of the country, and I work an apprentice for Saeed bin Sur Godolphin. Yeah, and I'll do the season over here this year, and the next year going to England. And yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for the festival.
Very good. Nervous.
It's wonderful. We have the top jockeys here, and we have an apprentice jockey. So this is what we want to discuss, because when we say how to become a successful jockey, of course, good horses make a good jockey, but that's not all. You have to give your input as well. And we do not want to discuss the basic. We just want to say, how can we help when we find out there is somebody who has a talent? How can we really, can he improve? Can we give them any assistance to become better? And I think the Matthew on my left should be the right, because he's a coach, and he was a trainer, he was a rider, so he knows this from all kind of walks, the racing, very well. And you can give us certainly some information how you can help them.
Thank you. I think one of the significant things that we found is that apprentices come into the system, and they come in all different levels of talent and ability. And once you can, obviously, once they get accepted into our program, they already can ride, but they all aspire to be leading jockeys, and they're probably not all going to reach the level to be a leading jockey. But I think that the most important thing is that you set a criteria or a standard that you want them all to adhere to, so that they can at least maximise their talent to the best of their ability. And we probably find that, there are some guys that make really quick improvement, but there's all different issues that they're confronted with that can stop them from reaching the top. So they not dissimilar to a tennis player or a golfer or whatever it might be. They need constant revision. They need constant feedback, and we find the guys that come into our system, they already really want to be top jockeys. That's why they apply for the program, and then they go through a rigorous testing process, which we're involved in, obviously identifying their level of talent, and then it's about harnessing their talent. And I guess technique, decision making and all that sort of thing comes with experience. You can't really teach that without them getting out there on game day. But what the biggest factor that we probably concentrate on is revision, you know, and these guys, we see them 2 or 3 times a week at the races. They're at the situation where a lot of the apprentices would phone us on the way home from the races and they would say, did you see our rides today, you know, if we weren't at the races? And the following day we'll get on the computer, look at the races, and they might not have done anything wrong, they might not have made a poor decision, but they might have been told by a trainer or an owner that, you know, they should have done this or they should have done that. We're probably in a position where we're completely neutral. We're not emotionally attached to the result. We want them all to be successful and be able to win, but we're not emotionally attached to the result. We just want them to give the horses every possible chance that they can. So I would say that from our point of view, given the fact that they are all different levels of talent, it's all about maximising their talent, getting the best out of them, and they're comfortable that they're reaching their maximum ability.
Thank you very much. Chris, I think, or I might think, when you started, that you did not have this support from schools. I don't know how this worked when you started to become a jockey.
That's correct. I did not go to any formal school. It wasn't until 2006 when we opened the doors at the North American Racing Academy, of which I'm the founder. And I'll digress for a second. I was telling Dr. Koji earlier today, the reason I started the school was because of my experience as a guest speaker at the Japan Racing Association Jockey School in 1988. I was over there competing in an international jockey competition with Bill Shoemaker representing the United States, and I also rode Pay the Butler in the Japan Cup that week. And I was invited to speak in front of the school there, and I came away from that experience incredibly impressed. They were not just teaching these young men how to ride horses and how to work around them. It was a full-blown academic program. They were teaching math, science, language, and so forth, and history. And that just planted the seed. And 2 years later, I was involved in an accident at Hollywood Park. I broke my left leg, my right leg, and my right arm. And as I'm laying in the hospital thinking, if this was the type of injury that would end my career, what would I want to do next? And I decided it would either be train horses or train people. And we all know that training horses is easy, right? Right, everybody? So I chose to take on a greater challenge and started to reduce my thoughts to paper. And when I retired in 2002, I was contacted by our executive director, Remy Belloc. I was getting ready to work on the feature film Seabiscuit. And so my plans for starting the school were sidetracked a little bit. When I was done working on the film Seabiscuit, I worked as general manager at St. Anita Park for about 1.5 years. And I got tired of putting on the suit and tie every day and sitting behind a desk. I would much prefer to be in the barn and working with horses. So I moved to Lexington, Kentucky in 2004. And Nick Nicholson, who was the president of Keeneland Racecourse at the time, was kind enough to assemble a bunch of very knowledgeable, influential people in the racing industry in America around the table, and we contacted Dr. Lee Todd, who was president of University of Kentucky, with the idea of starting a school under their auspices. They did not, they weren't so excited about the idea, so we took a step down, which ended up being a blessing in disguise. So we contacted the Kentucky Community and Technical College System, and they were excited to hear that there was no jockey school in the country. And despite the fact that they've got 65 campuses spread all over the state of Kentucky, they had no involvement in the equine industry. So, as you could say, it was a match made in heaven. So we opened our doors in August of 2006. Since then, I'm going to guess, I should have come here a little bit more prepared with the exact numbers, but approximate figures, we've got 20 graduates that are currently riding races. We've got 2 sitting in the front row here, Natalie Turner and Laura Carson, who are competing this weekend. Well, Laura's not riding, but she's ridden in your races in the past. But our graduates have won over 2,600 races in the last 5 years. So we're very happy with the results that we've been able to achieve. And it's a lot of hard work, but for me it's been a labor of love for sure. And I look forward to later conversation when we get into the particular theories that I have, the concepts that I believe in, as to why I was lucky enough to get a lot of run out of horses.
So it's wonderful for the Kentucky Racing School that you are around, with all your experiences, and of course to give something back. So very, very pleased.
Thank you.
JD, how did you start? I know there was no racing school for you. So JD, everything you learned to look from others, to got maybe some instructions from trainers, but there was not a very special assistance.
I started racing when I was 16, and like I told you, we have no racing school in Holland, and so for me it was a little bit bored, because my trainer, it was not really, you can ride for a trainer, but a trainer also needs you to explain how it works, and if you're 16, you don't listen very well. So you need somebody who brings structure, who brings structure in your life. And well, at that moment, I was not able to, and there were no chances. So I came back as an amateur, and I found another job, also like horse racing just for fun, and my other job as a nurse, just my completely job. I had the best things as an amateur, and what I learned a lot was with racing in other countries, like I participated for gentry, different countries, different people, different trainers. I learned so much over there. And then, in Germany, France, and then they changed my license. And now I'm jockeying, not that I know a lot, but I wish I could learn more. And it's a shame that we don't have a school. So maybe you have to go to England or anywhere. So now I'm going to Australia to learn, and then come back again, and then we see.
So to be a good jockey is learning all your life.
Yeah,
this is true.
You have to put 100% for it. You want to do it, and like if you're 16, 17, you're like a little bit. But when you're getting older, when I look back now, I regret a little bit that I didn't push it at that age, actually. I could be a lot farther, or maybe not 6,000 to 7,000 wins, but
Kuji, what I would like to know, Japan Racing Association or the racing schools, do they also give some support to riders who already finished the apprenticeship, who are on the way to become a jockey or a good one? You say this could be a top jockey, and we are going to support him more. Do you have such a program?
All right.
Yes, please.
Our students after graduation, we support them weight allowance for 3 years. It depends on their race win, but such kind of support is very important, very good support for youngster. But as a racing school, we taught them, we teach them communication skill. I think this is very important. To be a good jockey, getting lots of riding opportunities is necessary. But fundamentally, Japanese guy is a little bit shy, same as me. Oh, we teach them every time, say hello or say strict reaction or something, most important thing is the communication with owner or with a trainer. It is good for getting a chance to riding opportunity, I think.
Thank you. Richard, I think one great goal is certainly Sheikha Fatima's races, international races, especially for young people, for apprentice jockeys, to learn how it works in other countries. It's not competing with sometimes or mostly totally unknown other riders, and in your own country, of course, you know all the jockeys and you ride together with them. for myself, I must say, when I come back from a meeting like that, from a race, it's always amazing how much I learn in addition. What do you think about the international competitions?
Well, firstly, I think that the fact that we're here is wonderful. And every different racing jurisdiction or country will do something slightly differently. And as a coach, sharing experiences that I've had, that we've all had with young riders, is hugely important. I know, and I don't mind being slightly self-effacing about this sort of thing, especially sat on a panel as we are here. But I know that I made a huge mistake when I went and rode in Germany as a young rider. I was waiting for the starter to tell me that we were ready to jump out of the stalls. Because of that, I was 2 lengths behind when we jumped out in a Group 2 race. How far did I get beat? 2 lengths. Lack of preparation. It's as simple as that. So being able to share the knowledge, and at this age group, all these young riders out here that are 17, 18, 19 years old, the information they gain from coming to Abu Dhabi, from going to Hanover in Germany, going to Sacramento in California, all the way around the world, everything they learn from that experience, you couldn't tell them. They've got to go and do it. So actually going out and riding in another country, they gain so much more information, and that information and that knowledge that they've learned will stick with them. Because, as JD said, at 16, she's not going to listen to somebody in a classroom telling her what she should be doing. But if she goes out and experiences that, then that's going to stick up here and then just keeping running over. So the more of these races there are, and thankfully, as we've heard this morning, there are going to be more next year, there are more opportunities that all of these young riders are going to have to embed all of that information that's so important into their brains and into their muscle memory. So I think you might well say that I think it's a good idea.
Something?
Well, yeah, that reminds me of a sort of a funny story. It might not have been funny if it turned out a little differently, but I was riding at Sandown back in the early 80s in an international competition, and George Velasquez, a very famous Hall of Fame jockey in the United States, was on a horse next to me, and the horse had a blindfold on. And none of us were aware that we're supposed to pull the blindfold off.
Yeah, so, you get it easy.
So, yeah, thank goodness Pat Ettery looked over to Georgie Velasquez and said, "Hey, you better pull that blindfold off. The last horse is going in." What? Boom! So he was very fortunate that he was alerted just in time. I don't think I would have told him, because he was on the horse to beat.
So Tex, I know that you already organized some international races, and especially also, I think, I'm sure many more, but also with Mauritius, and that you are really, you support these international challenges. As you know, maybe I'm sure also from your own experiences, how important it is.
Yes, Susanna. We've been running international races in South Africa. We picked it up, dropped it in the 80s, and we started again 6 years ago. And the big reason is to expose our young jockeys, apprentices and professionals to high international standard riders, like the Frankie Dettoris of the world and Mick Kinane and the Chris McCarrans of the like. You know, if we could have had Chris and he was riding, he would have been definitely invited to South Africa. And we hope and influence the young jockeys to attach themselves the small time that they are there in a mentorship way and pick up the good things from these top riders. And yeah, it's a must. I'd love to see a student exchange done around the world. I think that's going to be a big win for young jockeys. If you can do a 3-6 months exchange, that'll bring them on, because they'll be rubbing shoulders with top jockeys in other countries and with other future young stars.
Thank you very much. So it's not only about riding, it's also about making friends, learning about new cultures, which is so important. And you know, this is something you cannot teach in a school, I suppose. And once you got to a certain level of race riding, How can you give support to maintain this and, of course, to improve?
I think we're lucky enough in Australia, our apprentices get the opportunity to ride, you know, these guys when they start off. There's races 7 days a week, as Melissa said earlier, and they get so many opportunities to, you know, before they even start race riding, they go through the barrier trials situation, and they probably have 100 barrier trials before they get accepted to go to the races or get their licence to go to the races. And then they go to meetings that are probably out in the country areas of Victoria, and they get to learn their craft without too much exposure, although the media is so strong now. And then ultimately, they pick it up from their peers, you know. I think that, I know just going to the races, you know, probably 3 days a week, and you're spending time in the jockeys' room, and you find the senior jocks will come to us guys and start talking about different apprentices and issues that they've got to them. So you sort of become all self-taught to a certain degree. Even as coaches, you get to understand. I mean, I rode 30 years ago, or 25 years ago, so things have changed a lot, and you know, racing's not as probably it's got more exposure and more, certainly in our country, and a lot more media exposure. So it's important that these guys can step out onto the track and they are as close to being as competitive with the better class jockeys, if you like, you know. And then as they get some experience, they'll develop it and grow it. They'll grow it off their colleagues that are in the jockeys' room with them, and you know, with our support, sort of after the races, yeah, I'm sure that helps them.
It's really amazing what nowadays can be done. And I want to go back to JB and say, what would you wish now for, of course, there is no jockey school in Holland. As you told us, there was not a huge support regarding riding races or anything else. It's just what you became was really out of you. So actually you can be very proud of it. But of course it would be easier, a little bit easier, and you could achieve this, what you achieved now, certainly, when you got a little bit earlier to this point. What would you suggest or wish, what could be done? Of course, the money is also very important when there couldn't be a school, when the racing is not big enough. What could you think, or could you suggest could be done better?
Well, what I do miss in all those years is somebody to talk with about the races, feedback or anything, and I really miss that. Until today, you're always watching. Of course, after the race, you want to speak about it. And if there was just somebody, or coach in Holland, also for the amateur riders, that would be great. But who? That's the next problem. I'm really thankful to Margreet and Wiege de Ruiter. They bring so much races this year to Holland, and I hope new people will come. But it's hard for us. So yeah, you never stop learning. So yeah,
that's true. And I know from my own experiences how important it is when you rode a race and afterwards you analyze what you did, even when it was good. You know, there's also always something you could do better. It's not always if you won. Of course, they say it's wonderful, you won the race, but maybe you made more mistakes as if you were second or third. Yeah. How do you give, or how did you feel this during your time as active jockey?
Yeah, JD touches on a very important point. There's a strange dichotomy with regards to the way jockeys learn in the United States. I'm not exactly sure how it works in other parts of the world, but until we had a school where people could go and actually rely on someone with some expertise, not only to teach them, but to follow them in their career and mentor them as they go along. We don't have coaches. We're not like a young person who grows up throwing a football or kicking a soccer ball or playing rugby or cricket or in our country, baseball, football. All of those individuals who make it to the pro level have a coach from the time that they were this big. And every time they get to another level, they have a specialty coach. If it's baseball, you've got a running coach. If it's basketball, you've got a throwing coach. Then you have weightlifting coaches. You have nutritionists. every time the competition gets keener and the idea of success becomes more important, there's another coach right there for you. With jockeys, it's just the opposite. Not only do we not have someone who teaches us from the very beginning and nurture through those formative years, once you get to the pro level and you're sitting in the jockey's room at Santa Anita Park, Hollywood Park, or Del Mar, where I rode, you've got these elders who have been riding for years who will help you until something magical happens. Once you start winning, they don't want to share their secrets anymore, because they don't want to cause progress within you, because they're going to take food off their own table. So the learning curve for jockeys in the United States is incredibly steep. And so I love getting on the phone and calling my graduates and saying, you know, you rode a great race this day, you didn't ride this, very well this time. These two young ladies in the front row here, I don't contact them very often because they're doing very well. They ride very well, they're careful out there. I don't think either one of them has even been suspended yet. Neither one of them. So you know what that tells me? They're not trying hard enough. You got to cross the line every once in a while. Just teasing, just teasing. I'm not encouraging them to get in trouble. But, you know, I teach a very basic concept at our school with regard to getting run out of a horse. What's the most important thing about riding a horse, whether you're running barrels, jumping, or riding dressage, or riding racehorses? What's the most important physical aspect? It's balance. I heard Chris from Turkey, from Australia and Turkey this morning saying that they teach balance. Well, balance cannot be taught. It's like a singing voice. You either have balance, you're blessed with it, or you're not. If you cannot carry a tune, it doesn't matter how many lessons you take, you're not going to be a great singer. But if you have balance, if you're blessed with balance, you can be taught, you can learn how to improve that balance. So balance on a horse's back is the most important aspect of causing that horse to do its best. The next most important thing is what, Natalie? Reduce the degree of hindrance. We all get in a horse's way. It doesn't matter what discipline we're talking about. We all get in a horse's way. There's no way a horse can run as fast, jump as high, stop as quickly, turn as sharply with 115 pounds on the back. When you add to the weight someone that's out of balance, out of sync, out of rhythm, that you're going to cause that horse to tire more quickly than it should. So the most important thing is to stay in perfect rhythm, perfect cadence, and perfect balance with the horse. It's simply understood, but it's difficult to execute. Thank you. Thank you.
That's absolutely true, and I think everybody will agree. And but if can you also give some help to reach this, or you think balance is just something you got, or you cannot really learn up to a certain extent, of course. You got it, or you didn't get it?
Well, I've been teaching now for 7 years, and I have had students that just cannot seem to maintain their balance when they're on a horse that's moving. Now, you might ask them to walk a straight line, and they're able to do that, but as soon as you involve this animal underneath them, they're not able to stay in the spot where that horse is going to be as comfortable as it possibly can be. Because we create discomfort. When we're on a horse's back, the horse is not as comfortable as he would be, without anybody on its back. So the most important, I've not figured it out. If someone out there can teach someone to create balance who's not blessed with that physical ability, then I have not met that person yet.
It's certainly difficult. Tex Lorena, you are also from a racing family. I know I read your father, your grandfather, a trainer, jockey. Your son is a very successful top jockey. I think about 1,000 winners already, or close to. And your nephew, and so all the family. Was it your intention to become a jockey, or from the beginning, or was there any other choice?
Susanna, I tell you what, it runs in the blood. When you're in racing, it just seems to rub off onto the younger ones. And like I say, with over 100 years in racing, I had to kick the doors down to get in because my mom didn't want it to be. And as I try to keep my son out of it, I made him kick the doors down, because it's got to be one of the hardest professions in the world, because you're relying on a horse, you're relying on the connections to give you a chance. There's so much out there that you're relying on to achieve. And my experience, I was not at the level of my son and other top jockeys. My days we used to race twice a week. Today they race 364 days of the week. But a top jockey, you either got it or you don't have it. And if you do have it, make use of it, is my advice. Like Chris said, hook on to the older guys, and hopefully you can pick up some good skills from them. And like he says, and when they realize that you're starting to beat them, they'll stop teaching you those skills. And the other thing is, for the people on the outside, if you see a talent out there, my advice is to try to keep that young person who has all these talents balanced in their minds, not only in body. They need good mentorship. If they're going to be riding at a high level, I believe sports psychologists should be brought in for them to learn how to not only win, to also take the knocks of losing, because a top jockey only wins 3 out of 10. So they've got to learn all these things, and my advice is, and also let them be themselves. They're going to hit the highs, they're going to hit the lows. They're going to be 17 going 27. They know everything. You just got to help them through those nurturing parts of their careers, and to come back to themselves, to succeed with abilities they've got. And like I say, today it's a modern world. There's dietitians out there, sports psychologists, and they deserve that type of chance in the careers they're in. And we're a little bit behind, I think, in racing, like Chris said. We need more of that.
A very simple question, but maybe you cannot answer it. What made you so special to win so much more than all the others?
I think the area that I excelled in mostly was getting into a horse's head, trying to figure out what makes a horse tick. That's something that I take a great deal of pride in. As most of us in this audience know, horses have different personalities, different likes, dislikes, idiosyncrasies, habits, good, bad. My number one goal when I would throw a leg over a horse, not even on a horse, if I'm walking into a horse's stall, getting ready to pick his feet out, or groom the horse, put a halter on, or bridle, my number one goal is cooperation. I want to get that horse to be my buddy. I want that horse to cooperate. I want to get the most of what that horse has to give me through cooperation. And the way I achieve that is making sure that horse is comfortable with me, whether it's a really nervous filly, or it's a studdish colt, or a horse that has no brain whatsoever and is just crazy, you know. My goal is to figure out exactly what can I do to make this horse rather have me in the stall or me on their back more than anybody else. And it was difficult to learn that, but it's simply a matter of paying attention. You've always got to be in tune. The horse is always talking to us. The horses communicate very well. We have to learn their language. And it takes a lot of time to learn that language, called equus. And it's difficult, but it can be done. I wasn't a very good student in high school. I do not have a college education. I graduated from high school in 1972, and I rode my first race in 1974. At the end of that year, I had 546 wins. So thank you. I was made to do this. I was born to work with thoroughbreds. I was born to work with horses. And I'm just very fortunate that I found my place, and I've capitalized on it. But as JD will tell you, it takes a lot of hard work, takes a lot of perseverance, and passion. In order to work around horses, you have to be passionate about it to be successful, because the work is tedious, the work is challenging, but the best thing about it is you never stop learning. They're teaching us all the time. You never stop learning when you're working with horses.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chris also brought a DVD, which we were technical-wise not able to show here, about one or two of his biggest successes. But this is a glorious part of racing. to win big races. But there's also something what we sometimes do not want to speak about, is to have accidents and how to, and you, if you are a top jockey, how can you cope with it? And after you recovered, how can you get on and come back to the top? Especially when you have a few months off. And I think you suffered from some serious accidents. As you told before, you broke your arm, you broke your leg, and you experienced a lot of bad things. And I know JD as well had also some with the shoulder, which took her very, very long out of racing. And you thought, okay, maybe she will ride a few races. She's back and even better, you know. And this is very important. And I'm sure Richard, you rode races. Richard rode races. Tex rode races. That you all had your injuries. So unfortunately, and I hope that Ahmed doesn't have any injuries in his career, that he will be happy. So how did you get along with that?
Well, when I was having lunch earlier with Laura, one of my graduates, I was telling her how proud I am of the fact that she actually made it to the starting gate in the afternoon, because she was one of my students that every time I raised the bar, every time I increased the challenge a little bit more, I could see the apprehension. I could see the anxiety. Her body language was just shouting, I'm not sure I can do this. When my students, at orientation each year when we have a new group of students, I tell them there are 3 things you cannot disguise when you're working around horses. Lack of experience, lack of fitness, and fear. You cannot hide any of those. When you're on a horse and they're pulling your guts out and the horse is taking off with you and you can't stop it and you run out of gas, your form just get lost. That's right. Your form is gone. And when your form goes, there goes the horse. So same with fear. One day I was flying home to LA from New York on a plane, and the gentleman beside me started asking me questions about the thoroughbred business and working around horses and riding. Isn't it very dangerous? Don't you get hurt? Yeah, we get hurt. Well, how do you deal with that? Have you ever ridden a horse you don't want to ride? Oh yeah, I've ridden a lot of nuts. I have a lot of horses that I'm telling my agent, what do you put me back on that? I didn't want to ride that horse again. You know, that horse is crazy. So I learned to become an actor. I learned the horses feel our vibes. Everyone on this panel knows, probably everybody in the room knows, as soon as you walk into a horse's stall or get near a horse, you're talking to them through your body language, and they're talking back. They feel when we're nervous, they feel when we're confident, they feel when we're happy, and we're mad. So if I'm riding a horse that I don't necessarily want to ride because he's a bad actor, or maybe it's not the soundest horse in the world, I have to project these vibes that totally confuses the horse with regard to my real true feelings. All right? I've got to continually show that horse I'd rather be no place else than right there. So I was surprised to answer your question, Susanna, I was surprised with how well I dealt with the injuries that I sustained over the years, because when I was in high school, I wanted to be a hockey player. I loved to skate, but after I got pushed into the boards 4 or 5 times by people twice my size, I no longer wanted to go into a corner after a hockey puck in front of someone twice my size. So I was a wimp. I truly was. In high school, I didn't have much courage at all. And then when I started working around horses, I was scared for the first 6 to 9 months or so, because I followed my brother Greg into the sport. He's 7 years my elder. And he had been on the job for about 3 months as a hot walker in Boston, Massachusetts. And he was kicked in the face. He was given a leg up on a horse. He landed behind the saddle because the horse took 1 step forward. It's the first time he'd ever received a leg up. His boss was not in the barn to supervise. The horse takes a step forward, bucked him off, kicked him right in the face. He spent a month in the hospital in 1967. So when I first worked on the racetrack, I'm thinking, I'm going to stay as far away, I'm going to make sure that I listen to everything everybody tells me to keep myself out of harm's way. But then I got hurt. In 1976, I was riding at Bowie Racecourse in Maryland. It was a frozen track. It was in February. And I fell and fractured a vertebrae. Yeah, it scared me. But all of a sudden, pretty soon I feel this callus building, this emotional callus. And I'm realizing you can go one of 2 ways after you sustain an injury. it's either going to scare you more, so you become more apprehensive, more anxious, and the horse is going to feel that even more, or it toughens you up. So over time, it did toughen me up. But then when you get really long in the tooth like me, you start thinking about injury again. So I started thinking about that when I turned about 45. I'm 59 now, and when I turned 45 years of age, I started thinking, how much longer do I want to do this, you know? And so it took about 2 years longer, 2 years later, that I decided, look, I got to count my blessings. I've been very fortunate. I'm going to walk away from this game with all of my limbs in place and just enjoy. And that's what I've done. So it is possible for people who are anxious, people who are apprehensive, people who are not sure about working around horses to get over that. If I can do it, anybody can. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you have any help after your injuries to get fit as well? I thought, thanks to His Highness Sheikh Manzo, we got this wonderful program of nutrition and fitness, which will be introduced tomorrow. And but had you had any help, or did you get fit on your own?
Oh, I did have lots of help. Because of my connections in Los Angeles, I had access to a trainer who worked for the Los Angeles Kings hockey team. And on the day that I referenced earlier, it was June 16th of 1990, I was supposed to ride Sunday Silence in his first start as a 4-year-old. And a horse fell in front of me. I broke my femur, my fibula, and my ulna. And the horse won that day. And 3 weeks later, he ran again in the Hollywood Gold Cup. And his previous rider, Pat Valenzuela, was on his back that day. And his trainer, Charlie Whittingham, instructed Pat not to hit the colt. He said, this colt does not like the stick. Do not hit him. Well, Pat hit him 16 times in the stretch with the stick. The next morning, I was at the trainer's barn, and I see a fax that he received from the owner saying, Charlie, I heard your instructions to Patrick. Under no circumstances do I ever want to see that kid on that black colt again. So 3 more weeks goes by. So it's 6 weeks after the fact, after the accident. And I get word that the next race for him was going to be a match race between his nemesis, Easy Goer, and Sunny Silence at Arlington Park. It was going to be $1 million, winner take all. And it was going to be towards the end of August. So June 16th to the end of August, so I've got a month and a half to, but a little time has already passed. Long story short, both colts were injured and retired. But when I found out there was a possibility for me to get the mount back, I contacted my doctor, my orthopedic surgeon, and he put me on a regimen which had me starting walking in the swimming pool with water up to my chest, which was virtually non-weight-bearing exercise. My doctor had me back riding in 89 days after breaking both of my legs and my arms. So it can be done with the right coaching, with the right nutrition, the right person that can guide you and push you enough to make sure that you're not going to regress and re-injure yourself, but push you enough so that what you seek out to achieve can be accomplished. So help is definitely, you can't do it your own. Yeah. You can't do it yourself. You need guidance.
What I think, JD, you had to do this on your own, did you?
Yeah, I am very lucky with my physiotherapist. He helped me out just to calm me down because you want to come back and come back. That's my power to, after how you call it, revalidation, something like that, recover. So yeah, and what I learned of my injuries is that you have to be 100% fit on the horse. Okay, maybe 90 if you had a bad sleep, but you have to be fit because my injuries came because I was not fit. And so that's what I want to say.
Kuji, I would like to know if your racing school also provides a program to help when somebody had a bad injury, one of the top jockeys, and wants to come back.
Our school accept injured jockeys coming back after physical recovering is okay from the doctor. they coming to racing school and get riding experience, real horses riding experience. And at this time, one young jockey have a serious injured. He coming back to our school and get a riding experience to return racing field.
With the help of the specialists. So that's really great. Tex, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, injuries, you know, we're a small colony in South Africa. There's only 100 jockeys, so I'm fairly hands-on with the different guys that have injuries and the recovery thereof. And I'm going to tell you, it's a hard-knocking story. In 2010, my son Gavin was clear by 16 winners in the championship. And he rode a crazy horse. 2 other jockeys had won on it before, different jockeys. And I still thought, why is he riding it? Why one of the other 2 jockeys riding it? Anyway, he said, the trainer said, all I must do is jump off. Well, he didn't have to jump off. The horse bolted into a wall with him, and he broke his tibia, and he smashed his knee up. Badly bruised and ligaments and that. Well, after being 18 clear, I thought, well, that's the championship gone. 4 months to go. He can never recover in time to have a go. Well, his determined mind, he said, I want that championship. And so from day one, we started to doctor him. He went for a plate put into, he didn't have a plate put into the leg, sorry, the tibia. That was aligned well, but the bruising of the knee, and that was very bad. That took most of the time because of the ligaments. So what we've done is we iced him 3 times a day for 20 minutes. He had a boot on. He was cycling gently. And then about after 3 weeks, we got him onto the mechanical horse. He was riding the mechanical horse, then he was swimming, and he came back from that injury 5 weeks. He was off, and he made up the loss of winners. He went clear by 8, and on the last day, he got beaten by 1 winner. So it was one of those losses you'd rather get beaten by 10. And it was painful being his father, you know, as a parent, but his recovery was remarkable. When it comes to our other jockeys, we always advise them to go to sports psychologists to overcome the fear that it was an accident, and then we also always send them to the sports physios that they understand to get their mobility going sooner rather than later because of the occupation, especially with knee injuries, where you can't have it set in braces and that for too long without doing physio. So we always have a good backup with injuries. The hardest injury is, of course, concussion. It's hard to measure, and you've got to interact with that person on a day-to-day basis for his recovery when it comes to concussion.
The same with an injured horse. You have to be patient. You cannot go forward, you know, until the horse is really fit as well.
Yeah.
You have the last word now.
Susanna, thank you. Although I'm envious of Racing Victoria, and we all are probably with Matty sat at the end there with the system that they've got, the Professional Jockeys Association in the UK, the jockeys there are very, very lucky. They've worked long and hard on getting really good support networks. They've got, as we heard from Dawn Goodfellow at the Northern Racing College, they have nutritionists go to the race course. We have nutritionists on every course that we do. They also have something called the Jockeys Injury Management Team, the gym team. They have flying physios, and they have physios at every single race course on every day's racing for jockeys if they have any ailments, and they give them advice on recovery time, recovery periods. But one of the things, I sat in a session only a month or so at a time with somebody delivering about the gym team, and they were talking about stretching and saying how important it is to look after your muscles, to look after your body. So young jockeys, as we know, are all athletes. Now, you don't see any athletes that go out track riding, running on a track, playing hockey, playing soccer, playing football, playing whatever it is. You don't see them going out without preparing properly. So any young riders out there, that you've got to get with it. And you've got to learn to stretch the same as other sports professionals, the same as other athletes, because you're using your body It's your definition of being an athlete. You're using your body to do your sport, your career. So, you know, we're very lucky. The jockeys are very lucky in the UK that they've got this Jockeys Injury Management team. But it's all through a really good network with the Professional Jockeys Association.
It's very important to oxygenate the muscles. You've got to get oxygen to the muscles, to warm up your muscles first and then stretch. Don't stretch when you're cold. You're only going to tear the muscle fibers, you're going to make yourself sore, then you're not going to want to do the exercise. But you got to warm up first. You got to pump that blood to the muscles and then do some exercise and stretch as well. We've got what we call exercisers, what you guys call simulators. They're not automated, they're manual. And I would get on an exerciser for, you know, I'd ride 4 or 5 races before I would go out and actually ride my first real race. And Richard hit the nail on the head. Warming up is incredibly important for any athlete, and he's right too. Very few jockeys in the United States you will find are warming up like that. It's a mistake.
Chris, it's really interesting. You'll back this up, as most jockeys will out there. Everybody says when they come back after their second ride, that feels good. Blown the cobwebs out.
Yeah.
Well, we're lucky enough at the British Racing School. We've been doing some work with the Royal Veterinary College, and through the Injured Jockeys Fund as well, we did all these tests looking at oxygen levels, looking at lactate levels in the blood, in the muscles, and we worked out through doing regulated races and reproducing them, taking all these levels, the body works more efficiently on race 2 and race 3. Race 1, so if you've got one ride on the day, if you don't warm up properly, then your body is not going to be efficient. And and so having simulators, exercises in weighing rooms, it's absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
So this is even from my smaller experience, and not to compare at all. But you know, the first race, the second race, you feel fit. You can ride 5 times, so you feel much better, and you are not getting tired. You know, this is really, the preparation is so important. And I thank you very much. I think we should have some questions from the audience to our panelists. Yes, please. The lady from Australia.
Liz has the microphone.
I've got Liz. Yeah, I've got the mic. I'm hogging the mic. Yeah, I have a question. We were talking early on about nutritionists. We've been talking about psychologists. But one of the questions, now we're talking about fitness, which is very interesting. But what I would like to know from you is, for instance, a jockey at the moment who's considered one of the best jockeys in the world, Ryan Moore. He does a program, which I think is called Insanity or something. It's a workout that he does. And the difference since he started doing that program is huge. And I actually believe that most of the jockeys nowadays don't follow an exercise program outside racing. They believe that by riding every day, their fitness is enough. What is your view on that?
My view is that it probably might be the case in the UK, but in Australia, if I could say one thing I've taken out of, and Richard keeps alluding to the fact that we've got a really good thing at Racing Victoria going. One of the significant things is that every box is ticked, whether it's nutrition, whether it's a psychologist, whether it's a medical expert. I mean, we just talked quickly about injuries and that sort of thing. They've got access, the minute someone hits the deck in Australia, they've got access to one of the best doctors from an AFL club in one of the biggest football teams in Victoria. I think one of the things I would say about fitness, these guys, if they're prepared from a very young age, when they come into the system, if they're taught how to what the proper way to diet is, what the proper way to reduce weight is, what the proper way to keep yourself fit, it sort of sets them up for longevity, and it never leaves you. And I know when I was riding, we never had access to that sort of thing. And as these guys are sort of saying that some of the programs don't, they might touch on it, but that's to the extent of it. But a lot of it is follow-up, and if you've got access to those programs and as you're saying, to fitness programs, I mean, jockeys talk amongst themselves. They talk about diets, they talk about how they keep fit, how they reduce weight. There's any number of fitness programs you can try, go to the gym or all those sorts of things, but ultimately, if it's instilled in them at a very young age, how to properly prepare themselves for race day, I think that it takes care of itself as long as they've got access to the tools and the education.
One more question. Please, the lady in green from Australia, please. Yes.
I'm from the Korea Jockeys Association. Now, my understanding is that the jockeys are most, dangerous job in the world, like boxing or sky jump is a little high risk, but it's much higher risking in the jockeys. So, front of guys like Chris McCarron and the other, jockeys, they've facing the lot of difficulties from the injuries. It takes a long time to recover the injuries, but I would like to know the Japan or Germany or UK or Australia, how do they support the jockeys, the injuries during the times they can ride the horse, they can manage their life, they have a really the bad times during the recovery times. How do the organization like association or club or the other, the government base, and what kind of the support giving to the jockeys who's injured?
Well, the Jockeys Guild in the United States was founded in 1940. And since it was founded, they began keeping records. The records reveal that in the United States alone, there are 2 jockeys killed every year and 2 more are paralyzed. There are only 4 states in the whole country which have laws on the books that require owners/trainers to provide workers' compensation insurance. In the event an individual is hurt, the medical bills would be paid for, as well as some small compensation that is afforded them in a way of a benefit while they're recovering, up until a certain point of time, typically 2 years, if a person is that badly injured. New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and California are the only states that have laws on the book that require insurance. So when a jockey gets hurt in Kentucky, Illinois, Michigan, Florida, Arkansas, all these major racing states, the jockey's on his own. The jockeys have to cover their own, buy their own insurance, which you can imagine is very expensive. So it's not only a very dangerous, risky occupation physically, it can be financially and emotionally as well. You have to have a lot of passion to do it.
My name's Jay Randall. I'm from Australia. I have a riding school and I teach small children to ride. And Chris, you asked earlier, how do you teach balance? It is hard, but it can be done. But when you start at 4 years of age, it's much easier. Because if you can recognise balance in a small child, it's much, much easier to get them to maintain and improve their balance for further riding. Tex also then said, if you see talent, keep it. And I like to see the talent and balance in my younger students, inform their parents, show their parents exactly what that talent is in an arena situation, so that the parent can see what is happening with their child versus other children, and then encourage the parent to maintain the child's interest and talent in horse riding. At the age of 12 years, I then invite these young students to join my endurance riding team. And then they have to spend many, many hours in the saddle, improving their balance and their talent. at the age of 17 years, at the moment, I have, over the last 14 years, I've had 6 children on the Australian national team for endurance. And that's a huge amount from my small stable. But I really do teach them from 4 years of age to encourage their balance. I would like to now get into teaching jockeys from 4 years of age. And I can do it because I have a great training program. So Chris, you can teach balance. But as you also said, start them very young, and it's much easier. They also fall softer and don't hurt themselves as much.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I want to learn how to teach it.
نهاركم سعيد. بما أننا نتحدث عن اللياقة البدنية والإصابات، أولاً أحمد مصطفى عبد العزيز صحفي ومدرب في نفس الوقت، يعني أحمل رخصة تدريب من الاتحاد الإفريقي. السؤال موجه للفارس المخضرم ماكرون. أود أن توضح لنا يعني الفروقات البدنية والذهنية والسيكولوجية بالنسبة للفارس منذ الصغر. يعني في لياقة بدنية وفي لياقة ذهنية وفي لياقة معنوية. كيف يعني ننمي هذه اللياقة البدنية هذه والذهنية والمعنوية والفروقات ما بينهم وما بين الرياضات الأخرى؟ شكرا جزيلا.
I'll take that one. I'll take it. The answer is yes.
What's the difference in the sports and the jockeys and the mental, you know, the mental and the fitness behavior of a jockey and the normal athlete? Other sports. Other sports.
The biggest difference is that in order for the jockeys to get to be as fit as they possibly can be and then maintain that fitness, they have to be very disciplined. They've got to take it upon themselves. As I've stated earlier, we don't have coaches. We don't have anybody pushing us. We don't have anybody demanding that if you want to make this team, you've got to reach this level of talent and fitness and dedication and perseverance. So it all depends on your level of what you perceive as achievement, what you perceive as success, and how do you get there. I heard a great quote from a guy who's just recently hired as the new manager for the Chicago Cubs baseball team, Joe Madden. He says that I tell my team, and the Chicago Cubs have not won the World Series since 1903. There's a supposed jinx on the team. And this guy goes in there and he says, the first thing I'm going to talk to my guys about is we're going to win the World Series this year. And he said that he's going to get laughed at, but we're going to win the World Series this year. And he said, because if I shoot for making the playoffs, we might not make the playoffs. But if I shoot for winning the World Series, we might make the playoffs. So if you don't set your standard high enough, you're never going to reach your full potential. So it's important to, because we're individuals, we're not ordered by anybody to do anything. It has to be on me. In order for me to achieve my level of success that I want, I've got to be dedicated and passionate.
Chris, I think that's a fantastic way to end. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank
you. Bye, that was good. I really enjoyed that. It was wonderful. And you were a star, Akbar, real star. This is the future, Chris. This is the future Chris McCarran of the UAE. He's a local guy, and he rode a winner in Tabriz, and he came from Leicester first. And he works for Godolphin. He's very, very good.
He works for who?
Godolphin. You heard of them. They're only a small. I love it. Super. Susanna, absolutely outstanding. Would you just stay there? Because I think have we got a present for the young apprentices, Laura? Could we have all the young apprentices on stage? Come and join us, because I don't know how she's done this. The ones who are riding, could we have the apprentice jockeys? Ahmed, come and join Tomo. And all the apprentice jockeys, we have a Come on and bring the dress up. Beautiful dress. Come and join us. All right. Did you enjoy that, by the way?
I did.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. All the apprentice jockeys.
had
And
some
Lara,
practice
what are
with
we
that.
going to give? No, the apprentice jockeys who are riding. The apprentice jockeys who are riding.
You'll
And
get-
this is a
yeah.
little present for you, because one of the things you've always got to be done is dress properly. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Ahmed, spot on. That's cool. Very cool. And we're going to go along now and give you something. And Lara, where is this from? These are credit cards for what?
Yes.
They are credit cards for, here we go. Here we go. They're credit cards for Bloomingdale's. And Bloomingdale's have set up their new shop here in the hotel. So everybody come forward. Everybody come forward. We need a photograph of this. We're live going around the world. And they're going to get a credit card to go and spend on some lovely clothes at Bloomingdale's, which is absolutely superb. Would you all like a credit card to go and spend it? Hands up, who would? I love it. Everybody gets a Bloomingdale's credit card. Blooming marvel. Look at this. I hope she doesn't run out before she gets to the end. There's Tomo standing at the end, just in case. Yeah. Yeah. You have two. I'll pass them on to them. Don't worry. And also, what else should we get up? Do we have the lady jockeys as well who are riding on Sunday? Could we have the lady jockeys on stage who are riding on Sunday? Would you like a Bloomingdale's credit cards? Come and join us. Come and join Tomo on the stage. Come and stand behind the apprentices. We're going to give the girls a Bloomingdale's credit card as well. Let's hope they're all here today and not out shopping, because come and join us, girls. Come on the stage. Come up here. Come up here. Well done, everybody. And now we have the lady jockeys, Lara, and they're going to get a Bloomingdale's. Could you all stand in a line? These are the lady jockeys who've qualified. And Lara's going to stand in the middle, and everybody here, there's one for you, one for you, all the girls, and you'll be able to go and spend that. And that is worth an awful lot of money. I'm not going to tell you how much, but it's worth. Where are the other girls? You've all got to get one. Are there any other girls here who are riding on Sunday? If not, you've just missed out on your Bloomingdale's credit. Sir, you are not riding on Sunday in the ladies' race. I've told you about that. But it's a good line. I love it. I love it. So, who would like one of these? We've got a few left. Hands up. It is wonderful stuff. Yes, Tomo.
All of you, there's Bloomingdale's there outside, waiting for all of you to make shopping. The best news is that all the jockey riders, apprentice and ladies, can you stand up? All girls stand up, not Jean-François. Jean-François can sit down. All the girls stand up. All the ladies jockeys, please. Okay. All the ladies jockeys also who are here, first they will go shopping outside, and then it's your turn. You will have also another style of credit card with Bloomingdale's who are waiting for you outside to make also shopping with Bloomingdale's. Courtesy of Sheikh Mansour Festival.
What about the delegates who've come from all over the world? And we love shopping at Bloomingdale's. Right, listen, just to say, we're going to start. We're going to start. Guys, apprentices, Ahmed, look after them, okay? He's the best shopper in the world, Ahmed. Go on, you can go outside. You have 10 minutes to go outside. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with TV and the media. Stacks still to come. And after the break, we'll be joining Masood. Stay with us.
Thank you.
تحية مجددة لكم مشاهدينا الكرام في هذا الاستديو الخاص والبث الحي المباشر لمؤتمر الشيخة فاطمة بنت مبارك للتدريب والتعليم. مشاهدينا الكرام، البداية كانت اليوم، وإن شاء الله يوم غد سوف يكون آخر أيام المؤتمر. طبعا بدأنا الجلسة الأولى تحت عنوان تدريب الفرسان عالميا وتفادي الإصابات. الجلسة الأولى كانت في تمام الساعة 10:30 حتى 12:10. قبل لحظات انتهت الجلسة الثانية مشاهدينا الكرام تحت عنوان المحور الأساسي طبعا الوصول بالفرسان لأعلى المستويات. بعد ربع ساعة من الآن مشاهدينا الكرام سوف ينطلق المحور الثالث والجلسة الثالثة تحت عنوان صناعة العلاقات العامة والإعلام والتدريب. Tomo, great day, nice sessions. Now we finished the second session till now. Just tell me briefly what was the most important things what have been held and talked in the second session.
Without doubt, the appearance of Chris McCarran, a man who's written over 7,000 winners. One of the journalists came up to me before we went in. He said, Derek, can you explain this to me? It says this man has over 7,000 victories. I said, yeah, that's 7,000 winners.
Exactly.
He said, what?
Wow.
7,000 winners.
Big number, exactly.
To put that into perspective, the most successful jockey in British racing, Sir Gordon Richards and Lester Piggott, who were 50 years ago, they rode over 4,000 winners. He rode over 7,000 winners. And when he came on, he told us the things. He used to be an ice hockey player at school. You know, ice hockey. Now, you've seen ice hockey, and they're big guys. And he's only small. And they used to bash into him.
Exactly, it's tough of it, yeah.
After a couple of times of getting bashed, he thought, this is not for me. So because of his size, he became a jockey. He said he wasn't very good at school. He hadn't worked very hard. But he'd never ridden a horse. He went to work in the stables. And the first year he became an apprentice jockey, he rode over 500 winners.
Exactly.
Can you believe that?
He knew to which field to go and to succeed.
Exactly.
He chose the correct place.
It came together like that. And he said, there's no fast rule. He says, the balance you have on a horse is natural. It's like you talking into a microphone. It's natural.
Exactly.
You can't teach that to people. He does it naturally, like you do. And the way he sits on a horse, and he rode all those winners. Now, all right, he retired over 5 years ago. He's now become a jockey coach, and he's helping pass that on. And if anybody's bright enough to hear and try and do what he did, they've got a very bright future. Ahmed El Sabusi, our local guy, was also on the panel. He's only ridden about 20-odd winners. But remember, he was a World Cup winner in endurance.
Exactly.
So he's got that natural balance.
Exactly.
If he can translate that to speed, Ahmed El Sabusi could win on Sunday.
On Sunday. And what nice, remember what the last question from the journalist, he said, when I go to a big championship, he said, I want to win this championship. I'm going to win. So they were talking, see how the confidence he has it.
Yes, you've got to have confidence.
Yeah.
Obviously, before you get on a horse, before you go on air, before you go into a board meeting, wherever, you're always a little bit nervous. If you're not nervous, there's something wrong. But once you get going, you have that confidence. And you can only get confidence by being more and more successful. Now, it's difficult. You look at the top jockeys and say, how do they become a top jockey and earn millions of pounds or dirhams every year? They get all the best horses. Yeah. But they started down there.
They work hard also.
They had to work without a doubt.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Like, you didn't started like riding expensive horses from the beginning.
No, you only get to ride for the sheikhs and everything if you're the up-and-coming jockey.
Exactly.
And you only get there if you're good enough to get there. There's very few. Ryan Moore is the #1 jockey in the world at the moment. He's ridden this year 19 Group 1 winners this year. Wow, that's incredible.
And exactly, and the owners, as much as you have money, they want the talent people because he wants to win at the end.
Who do you want on your horse? Ryan Moore. You want Frankie Dettori. You want people like that. Now, these young apprentices, perhaps one day, could be that person, but they're going to have to work hard. You need luck. You need luck on your side, of course. But these guys, this gives them the opportunity on Sunday, thanks to Abu Dhabi for sponsoring this great series, gives the young apprentices the chance of hitting the big time, and it also gives the ladies the chance of hitting the big time as well. This is unique.
Exactly, exactly. So the third and last session today will be about PR and media. Tomo, you'll be a speaker in it. And Philip Bryan, he was with me in the studio like a few hours ago. 1 hour ago, he was talking about that. He will be moderating this this session. How important is the media now? You said a very nice thing at the beginning. You just take a photo, people will be sleeping, but when we'll be sleeping, the photo will go all over the world.
All over the world. That's the beauty now of this modern media that we've called Instagram,
Social
Skype,
media,
whatever it is. Send them around the world. You saw it yesterday at the camel train. Everyone was click, 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 recording it. Look, and that will go to every country in the world. It's marvelous. So when people were waking up and we were asleep, they were seeing that. There's lots of things we want to talk about. Sport needs media.
Exactly.
If football wasn't on TV, people tell us, where's the football match? I want to watch Manchester City. I want to watch Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid. If it's not on TV, they don't see it. So we have to put that on TV.
Exactly.
And then people will watch and say, that's good.
Exactly.
I want to be a footballer. I want to be a jockey.
Exactly. He said also beautiful words. He said like the jockey also, you have to pull the people to come. The jockey should not only, for example, with the media, I did a great race, it was good, I took this tactic, this blah, blah, I'm okay now, I have to work hard more. No, try to attract, promote your...
Exactly. You know, a year ago, Ryan Moore rang me, and he lives very near me, just outside Newman. He said, Tomo, please come round, have a cup of coffee, show me how to work with a microphone. So I went round. Now, this guy is a multi-millionaire, one of the world's most successful sportsmen, but nobody had actually taught him how to hold or answer a question. And he is asking, if I say, how did the race go? All right, went very well. But that's no good for us.
Exactly.
You and I need a response.
For the viewers, yeah.
The viewers need a response. So it's all right when you win the race. How was that? Yeah, bah, 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 great. Frankie Dettori do the flying dismount. But what happens when you finish last on the favourite that was supposed to win? And I or you go up and say, what happened? And they, you know, I'm gutted. But in tennis, a lot of other sports, you have to sign a contract. So when you play at Wimbledon or in the Abu Dhabi tennis or the Dubai tennis, you have to do an interview, win or lose, after the event.
Exactly.
You have to face the press.
That's very important. Win and lose.
Win
not
and lose.
only win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you lose and you're feeling terrible and the tears...
You don't want to talk to the media.
You don't want to talk, but you have to.
Force yourself.
Absolutely.
Learn that, yeah.
And because of that, when you go on TV, you'll see Djokovic covered in lots of sponsors. You'll see Andy Murray with all his sponsors.
Exactly.
So the sponsors love that. It doesn't matter. So media and sport is so important, but also from a sponsor's point of view as well. So say you're sponsoring the big race on Sunday. Say it's Abu Dhabi. You want to see that on TV around the world. So you're promoting your goods. Everything has to work together. TV is vitally important.
Exactly. All these subjects, all these topics, I'm sure in this 1.5 hours we will talk about a lot of it, and you'll give it very important time and of your knowledges.
And can I say also, thanks to you guys for showing this and the races around on Abu Dhabi TV. You've really helped build this, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and a lot of it is thanks to you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you very much. إذا مشاهدينا الكرام بعد الفاصل تتابعون المحور الثالث من مؤتمر الشيخة فاطمة بنت مبارك للتدريب والتعليم. المحور الثالث مشاهدينا الكرام تحت عنوان صناعة العلاقات العامة والإعلام والتدريب. نتابع.